Welcome to Live Vita, the show for women who are ready to break free from diet culture, nourish their bodies intuitively, and reconnect with their natural rhythms. I'm Shay, a registered holistic nutritionist and founder of the Vita Method, where I help women support their gut, hormones, and metabolism through practical, evidence-informed nutrition and lifestyle changes, all without the overwhelm. So whether you're struggling with bloating, energy crashes, metabolic imbalances, or just feeling confused and out of sync with your body, you're in the right place. Here we'll talk about real nourishment, metabolism, slow living, and everything in between. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Live Vita podcast. So you voted, and I'm responding. I asked in my Instagram stories, what do you guys want to hear next? What episode do you want to hear? What topic do you want me to talk about? And you voted 100% that you wanted to hear, is wellness just the new diet culture? And I think this is such a great topic, and I am so excited to dive into it because some of the stuff I see on social media that is positioned as wellness or holistic or healthy, I am just like, this is not it. This is not it. So we're going to talk about it today. This is going to be a gentle, maybe gentle, but an honest take about how modern wellness trends can quietly damage your trust in your body and how to reclaim your own definition of hot. So we're going to get into it, and this episode might be a little bit of a call out for certain people. But I'm not actually trying to call you out. I'm going to say that right up front. I'm not calling you out. I am calling you in. Let's talk about this. Let's get into it. And you know what? If you see yourself in any of this, this is not to shame you. This is to bring it to light, right? What is in the darkness needs to be brought to light. There is a great Carl Jung quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it. But basically he says, until the subconscious is made conscious, it will continue to rule your life. So until we pull out the things that are lurking in the shadows of ourself, they will continue to dominate and control us in ways we don't even see. So we need to pull it forward. So if you listen to this episode and you're like, oh, I might be doing these things, or I might have whatever, that's okay. This isn't a call out to you. It's like a calling in. Like, where does this resonate for you? What can you do to shift your focus? I know for me, I have worked on body image, and body image and self-confidence are two things that I have spent over 10 years working on. And a lot of the things that I did to improve my relationship with my body, my self-confidence, my body trust, and my body image have all been through exposing myself to more things and broadening and deepening and expanding my view of what is beautiful, what is, sexy, what is attractive. That view that I have is a very broad container. And so I want you to keep that in mind when we go through this. This isn't to talk down to any one type of person or anything like that. But what we are criticizing here is the greater culture, the greater society. So we're not criticizing individuals. We're not calling out individuals because everybody has their own unique beauty and flaws, and it doesn't matter what they look like, whether they are, the dominating culture's idea of beauty or something else. They have their own unique struggles. But what we are calling out here is the fact that our society continues to fail us, right? So that is what I want to draw attention to, and that is the mindset that we're going into this episode. So one thing I want to address here as well is you can love wellness without performing it. Wellness itself, taking care of yourself and being well, is not performative. So I 1000% believe in practicing wellness, and to me the word wellness, it still feels very cozy, flexible, ever-changing. The word wellness reminds me of a river, of a stream, of a place that is calming in nature and soothing to my soul. But what I'm seeing on social media is something else, and it's very performative a lot of the time. And one of the reasons why I actually left Instagram for such a long time was I was getting caught up too much in the influencer culture, and I started feeling like I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough. Oh my God, I need to live this way. If I'm not living this way 100% all the time, I am not doing it right. I'm not optimal enough. I'm not getting enough results. I'm not enough is ultimately the subconscious script that was running for me for a long time when I was on social media. And I just felt like this isn't a place I want to be. I need to step away. So I ultimately was gone from social media for a couple of years with a lot of like on and off relationship prior to that. And now that I'm back, I have approached it in a much different way. And I've been very, very, very strategic with the information that I allow myself to consume. I'm constantly unfollowing things. I'm constantly being like, nope, don't want that, don't need that. It doesn't help me. So I think if social media is a cause of stress for you, two things. Like, one, maybe take a break from it. Like, taking a break from social media can be so profound for how it changes your mental landscape because you don't realize how many things you're taking in and absorbing, and they're becoming part of your subconscious. And then again, that subconscious is kind of dominating your conscious. And so you're showing up in ways where you feel maybe insecure, or you feel like you're not doing enough, or you're not enough, or your aesthetic isn't good enough, whatever it may be. Taking a little break from social media and from the influence of others can be a really great thing to do. But if that doesn't feel realistic to you because maybe you have a lot of connections and community on social media, then just be really strategic about what you follow and start smashing that unfollow button. Like, if it doesn't make you feel warm, comfy, cozy, um, you know, feeling good when you consume that content is a good sign. If it makes you feel anxious, fearful, a little stressed, feel like maybe you're not good enough, making you feel small, anything like that, like unfollow it. I see a lot of influencers too where they're like, oh, they're trying to validate their own position, and they're doing it by talking down to other people. They're like, these idiots, these morons, like they don't know. And I find that so toxic and so negative. And I'm like, it doesn't give you more validity to break other people down. And even if the other people are promoting something or doing something that makes you angry, that's not necessarily on that individual. It's like a greater social construct. Like, why is it that this is happening in our society, that people are feeling this particular way or people are feeling that particular way? What are the conditions that have made people form into these different groups and then attack each other, right? And especially in wellness, I find it so ironic because wellness in a lot of ways is about making ourselves better, making the world better, taking care of things, making everything a better place for people to be. And then when I see people who position themselves as health coaches or wellness coaches or whatever, holistic people, but then they're talking down and ripping down other people who don't align with their values, I'm just like, you're not making the place better, and you're not rising above and like making your point more valid by tearing down someone else. And I think, again, this speaks to a broader social issue where it's like maybe that person tearing someone else down has a really valid point, and maybe the person they're tearing down is really ignorant. But the ignorance is the fault of the greater social construct. It's not necessarily the fault of the individual. We can't hold people to that standard that everybody should know everything all the time. That is insane. So there's a lot of context here, there's a lot of nuance here, and I just wanted to kind of put that little rant out there before we get into it because, again, I feel like wellness is still a really great practice. Again, it reminds me of a nice calming river, somewhere where you can just be at ease. So that's the mental image that I strive for when I create content and when I do things. It's like, I just want to put you at ease. I want a cozy corner. I want you to have resources and awareness, but I don't want to tear anyone down. I don't want to break anyone apart because they don't know something or they don't understand something or they've never been exposed to an idea before, you know? How are we supposed to get things to a place of evolution if we just, rip up people who haven't been exposed to ideas before? How are they going to feel safe coming in and starting to learn about those ideas? So anyway, that is my rant, and I will move on to the rest of the episode. So True wellness honors your rhythms, your season of life, and your unique biology. It's not about checklists and it's not about aesthetics. I think aesthetics have a place because having an aesthetic can make you feel really put together, and it can help represent your self identity. It can help you express yourself in certain ways. But depending on what season of life you're in, focusing on an aesthetic might not be what you need right now. And the rise of the that girl or the hot girl or the it girl routines and certain aesthetics that are on Instagram still carry the same energy of perfectionism and performance. So, bioenergetically, this rigid wellness tracking your macros, your steps, your morning ritual, your nighttime wind down, your skincare routine, all of these things that we have to achieve, to track, to stay on top of in order to be quote unquote well, keep the body in sympathetic dominance, a low level stress state instead of restoration. So, again, like we're not trying to focus on all of these things to track. If tracking all of these things stresses you out, then that's not your approach to wellness. That's not the approach that you need to be taking. And there's a lot of value in having lots of data. Like I personally track a lot of things because I love data. I'm very data driven. It motivates me. It doesn't stress me out though. And the minute that it starts stressing me out, I step away from it because it's not something I have to do. It's not a rule. It's something I'm currently enjoying doing because it's helping me. It's providing me data, and that data is allowing me to make decisions based on data, right? But as soon as I'm like, I don't have the capacity to get this data, to track this data, then I stop doing it and I focus on my foundations and my basics instead. Because we don't want to be confusing rituals and routines with being rigid. So, when behaviors, even healthy ones, are driven by external validation or fear of being behind, it activates the amygdala and keeps us in a state of hypervigilance. So, this is going to be raising your cortisol, blunting your hunger signals, and even severing your ability to access interoception. Interoception being that felt sense of your body. Like if you've ever been dissociative before, disconnected from your body, depersonalization, where you just kind of feel like you're floating outside of yourself. This is coming from long term chronic stress, long term chronic anxiety, and having that amygdala activated. So you can basically think of it as your brain is on like hyper vigilant surveillance mode. It is just constantly looking around for dangers, for threats. Your brain is in the watch post, the guard post, looking around and being like, where is the danger? When are they coming? When am I going to be attacked? When do I have to raise the alarm? And that's a really, really crappy way to be living. So we want to find ways to calm the amygdala down, soothe the stress state, so we can get in touch with our body and not have the brain be overriding everything to take control because it's afraid that it's going to be attacked. We want the body to be in a nice parasympathetic state so we can be in our somatic sense of feeling. We can actually tune in and drop down and not be in this surveillance state. We're in a state of trust. But this, especially in our modern day where there's so many micro things going on, again, social media can be really bad for this. Following the news can be really bad for this. We're not meant to absorb so much information, and especially so much negative information. It takes some practice to learn how to drop into your body, calm that stress state, and not be worried about all of these external things that you have no control over. Worry about the things you actually have control over, because then you get a sense of purpose, autonomy, and completion, because you can actually follow through on things you can control. But things you can't control, there's not much you can do about it. So allowing yourself to be in a constant stress state because of these things isn't helping you out, and it's also not helping your purpose. If you're like, but I want to make the world a better place, you're not going to do that from a state of constant chronic stress. So let's rewind a little bit again and talk about skinny talk, wellness, aestheticism, and the rebranding of shame. So, what I really want to address here is how a lot of wellness content on social media is popping up with the hot girl or the it girl. I don't know if you've seen this, but I see it a lot. And I've heard, but I don't know because I'm not on TikTok, I've heard about skinny talk and the return of heroin chic aesthetic and body progress reels and how to be skinny and, skinny girl mindset. You must earn your wellness by being thin. These kind of concepts are coming back up. And I'm just like, this is just diet culture rebranded as wellness, but it's not wellness culture. Okay? It's not what wellness is. And there's no shame in wanting to lose weight. Like, if you're like, but I really want to lose weight, there's no shame in that. But focusing so strongly on a particular aesthetic, on being skinny over healthy, is not a way to be well for the rest of your life. Um, Again, there's no shame in wanting to lose weight. There's lots of great ways of losing weight that are going to support your metabolism, support your gut health, support your hormones, and be sustainable for the rest of your life versus other crash kind of diets, crash ways of losing weight that result in longer term problems, and they don't deal with the relationship you have with your body, the relationship you have with food. They just create more rigidity. They create more of that stress and amygdala surveillance where you're always surveying your food, you're always surveying like what's going in your body, and it's creating so much tension and stress. So we don't want this, and I see a lot of it in gut health content that's disguised as disordered eating, like how not to look pregnant after meals, which really stigmatizes being bloated and uses the language of shame around normal body functions and around pregnancy. Like, pregnancy is not a shameful state to be in, and having a pregnant belly is not a shameful state to be in. So let's not connotate those two things together, even though I know it's a really common phrase people use, like, oh, I look 6 months pregnant. It's like, no, you don't. And obviously, you've never been pregnant because you would stop saying that if you had been pregnant, because that's not the same thing. And a certain amount of bloating can be very normal. It can be a very normal digestive state and a normal digestive function to have. There are times, of course, where bloating is not normal, and we want to address that. But some bloating sometimes is not super unusual. Some other things I see are trending phrases like euphemisms for I just want to be smaller. I want to take up less space. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be comfortable. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be comfortable in your skin. Again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight or being uncomfortable in your body. That's completely understandable, but it's how we approach it is what makes the difference, right? Is this approach going to create you more calm and ease and feel more at home in your body despite whatever size you are? Or is it going to create more tension, more stress, more frustration, a desperate need where you feel like you need to shrink yourself to be valid, where if you don't shrink yourself, you certainly are not a holistic wellness person, let alone healthy, God forbid. And one of the things I mentioned early in this episode was that I did a lot of exposure for myself to work on my body image, and this included looking and following women who are in very large bodies, but they're living very healthy lifestyles. And that, if you've spent a lot of time in a diet culture mindset or in a, this kind of icky wellness, green juice, California aesthetic space, it feels like, well, you certainly can't be in a bigger body and be healthy, right? And it's like, but no, you can. And we actually have science based in metabolic science to prove, like, yes, you can be in a bigger body and also be metabolically healthy. The two are not mutually exclusive, which just comes back to show that it really depends on how we're showing up for ourselves. It's not about an aesthetic. It's about how we actually are taking care of ourselves. And if it feels bad, then there's something to explore there. And again, these sort of shame-based health goals, and I'm not saying that anyone is actually outwardly shaming people, but it's implied. It's implied in that if you are not focused on being skinny, if you are not focused on this particular wellness aesthetic, I see most often, and no shame if this is your body type, because I still think it's a beautiful body, but I see it most often in branding and marketing, these like tall, lean, or appearing tall and lean girls, very lean muscle mass, very low body fat, often blonde, gold jewelry, very tan, in their cute work outfits and promoting whatever wellness thing, and that is tried and true diet culture. We have been using that body type for years to promote things. And I just think there's nothing wrong with that body type, but let's see some diversity in that content. Like, especially if you're a coach or providing group coaching, or, you're a group of people providing the service, like, let's see some variety in the body types of different people showing up doing the same things as you, right? Like, it's like if we have, I'm going to call her Skinny California Girl. I'm sorry if that's offensive to anybody, but it's like if we have Skinny California Girl, let's also have like Curvy Pacific Northwest Girl, and they're both together and they're doing the same habits, the same things. So it gives more variety, and it shows an example of like, you don't have to strive towards this one body type. Anyway, I hope I'm illustrating that point there for you. But basically, it, again, like I said in the beginning of this episode, it's not to shame the individual. Like, I'm not shaming Skinny California Girl. I'm using that as like a title just so this is the archetype I'm talking about. But when you see a lot of content positioned in that way, leaning towards only that body type, only that, it does create implied shame. Because if you are not that body type, then you do not fit. However, we know this isn't true. I know this isn't true. If this is like, oh God, I feel that way, it's not true. You fit, you belong, 100%. But what this content is doing is it's creating a shame-based health goal, and that lights up the same areas of the brain as trauma. Over time, this can erode body trust and dysregulate your nervous system's ability to self-soothe after normal bodily changes like weight gain, bloat, cycle shifts. We see this in people who freak out as soon as they gain 5 pounds, but that 5 pounds is a natural rotation of their body's weight. Women, we are constantly both being and becoming. We are always in flux. We are always changing with our cycle, with the seasons. Everything is always changing in a woman's body, and trying too hard to hold on to it tightly is actually what creates that rigidity and that stress and that surveillance. And you're not pursuing wellness anymore at that point. I also said this, and I don't know if you heard it, but I said the archetype, the California skinny girl archetype. I should say the California lean muscle archetype. I don't know. But the content I'm seeing about how to be a hot girl summer, hot girl whatever, some of it came originally very innocently and playful, like let's all be hot girls together, and it was very inclusive. But I've seen it trend towards, again, this sort of California girl archetype. And what I wanted to mention is that quote unquote hot girl is an archetype. And I use this in my own brain because I'm like, what would healthy hot girl do? And to me, that's like this little archetype. It's fun, it's playful, it's not distinct. Like, I don't have a distinct mental image of what this looks like as a person, but what I do have is distinct behaviors that are associated with this archetype that I've built in my head about what is quote unquote hot girl. And because hot girl is an archetype, we need to understand that positioning it as one body type or one aesthetic is doing a disservice. Other archetypes include things like the maiden, the mother, the crone. And when you think about mother, the archetype of mother, that's going to draw up different mental images, different behaviors, different things that make that archetype for you. So when we say hot girl archetype, that's going to be distinct for you. And what you want to kind of start evaluating is that archetypes are meant to be symbolic. They're open-ended, they're inclusive. So the hot girl should represent embodiment, vitality, confidence, aliveness, not just the Pilates California girl look. And again, nothing wrong with that aesthetic. If that is you and you're like, oh God, I'm being called out so hard right here, I'm not trying to call you out as an individual. I'm calling it out as this societal goal that we've built on social media for everybody who wants to be into wellness to strive towards, because that is what I'm seeing a lot in a lot of content. But again, I want to reiterate this point that quote unquote hot girl is an archetype. So if you are like, what does hot girl mean to me? You need to start exploring those other definitions of beauty. Expose yourself to other content, look at other body types intentionally go and seek out other body types and look at them doing the same healthy behaviors that you're interested in, so you get a wide variety of variation of body types and of hot women doing different wellness activities. And then from there, you can start building in this hot girl archetype into your own brain of what you actually think is beautiful. What is beautiful to you? What is hot to you? What is healthy to you? Because it is very unique and it is very individual. It's not just going to be like green juice, lemon water, and matcha. Nothing wrong with any of those things in and of themselves, but when we strive for those and you're like, I need my green juice, I need my my whatever, and if I don't have that, then I am incomplete, then I am not doing the thing. But that's not true, because maybe the green juice isn't aligned for you, maybe that's not actually what feels healthy for you, maybe that's not what you need. And social media has really flattened this archetype into like a thin spo resurgence. Long limbs, the coastal aesthetic, subtle wealth signaling. It's not inclusive. It's very, it's just diet culture rebranded. Like, I've seen this, I saw this. It reminds me of the early 2000s in a lot of ways, but rebranded into the current year. So what if we reframed that? What if being hot was something less tangible? What if it wasn't an aesthetic? What if it's a feeling? Because what is being hot? It is a feeling. It's confidence. It's vitality. It's having flow. It's having rhythm. It's having a sense of self and being individuated as a person, where you don't feel like you need to follow a trend unless you actually want to. Like, unless you're like, oh, I actually love this trend, this totally aligns with me and who I am, then yeah, hell yeah, go for it. But you're not following trends, you're not following things because you feel if you don't, you'll be left behind, or you won't be part of the crowd, or you won't be accepted. You're doing things from a place of authenticity and self-knowledge and self-care and self-love, where you're not operating from a place of anxiety, wondering what people will think about you, and ultimately fear. So what if hot is actually cyclical, emotional, relational, earthy, sweaty, soft? What if your hot came alive when you felt safe in your body, not just when your body looks good to other people? And from a bioenergetic perspective, let's reframe this as vitality and hotness come together from flow, being in a blood sugar balanced state, having proper movement that supports you, your frame, your joy, your inner child, having good mitochondrial function, having good hormonal rhythms, having your circadian rhythm aligned. The body becomes hot, you become the hot girl when you are turned on to life, not just shut down, not seeking approval, but you're just in your inner state, your inner joy, your inner vitality. You're in touch with that inner child. You're having fun, you're playing, you're showing up, but you're also taking care of yourself, like you're self-parenting. You're setting boundaries, you're knowing what's okay and what's not okay for yourself, so you can let that inner radiance shine.
Taking a quick break to talk about something that could completely change the way you approach your gut health. If you're constantly dealing with bloating, sluggish digestion, cravings, or other imbalances with your metabolism and hormones, my free gut guide is the perfect place to start. It's a simple resource to help you restore digestion and rewild your gut in just 7 days. This will get your well-being right back on track. You can grab the gut guide as well as my other free resources at vitaessentia.com/free-health-guides. Also, the links in the show notes. Now, back to the episode.
So your nervous system cannot heal under the weight of body image management. Like I said, we need to be exposed to a wide variety of quote unquote hot girl bodies. And constantly filtering your food, your face, your fitness, looking through your feed through the lens of how will this look, reinforces fawn responses, behavior adapted to avoid rejection by mirroring the dominant trend. You need to expose yourself to more examples of women eating freely, following their hunger, honoring their cravings, honoring their playfulness, seeing bodies bloat after meals and having it be normal. And again, I'm talking about normal bloating as opposed to symptomatic bloating, but a little bit of bloating after a big meal or some food that you're not used to eating isn't unusual, especially if it only lasts for a short period of time, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, a little bloating, and then it goes away. Again, symptomatic bloating is a different thing. It's going to be chronic, long-term, uncomfortable, painful, two different things there. But, gaining weight after burnout, gaining weight when you're healing your metabolism, gaining weight as you're aging, this is normal. How much weight? Again, there's a lot of context and nuance here, but having weight fluctuations is a normal part of being a woman. And especially if you're coming from young womanhood, so you're 18 to 25 and you're entering more mature womanhood or, middle womanhood, where you're 25 to 35, your body and your frame should change because your body is ultimately constantly adapting towards fertility, towards preservation. You want to put on more body fat to a certain percentage, to a certain amount, in order to support your body and hold on to your fat stores so you have good hormonal function, so you don't run into things like osteoporosis much later in life, which happens when estrogen drops. And the fat tissue that you store in your body actually holds on to estrogen, so you have some when your body no longer is producing it in the same way after menopause. So there's all of these cyclical changes that your body goes through, and tuning in, reclaiming hotness is just reclaiming your own expression. It's not about aesthetics. And, yes, aesthetics in that you've created your own aesthetic, your own individuated version of what you find hot, cool, fun, sexy, but not following aesthetics just because it's a trend. Not following it just because you don't want to be left behind, you don't want to be rejected. And the nervous system's safety is going to come from not controlling your look, but being witnessed. And I talk about this in other episodes. I talk about this in my coaching program and in my group containers. But being witnessed as you are, being seen, is so important. Women, we desire to be seen, and we desire to be seen for all that we are, in our fullness, in our full capacity, everything from death to birth. We hold life, we create life, we are being and becoming at the same time. And when we can be seen in our fullness, we start healing. And specifically, when we feel safe being seen. If you are seen and then you don't feel safe immediately after, you're going to shut down. You're going to come out with claws, you're going to try and defend yourself. You're going to try and put up walls, boundaries, barriers to keep yourself safe from those witnesses who don't make you feel safe, from those witnesses who make you feel like there's a threat, who activate that surveillance system in your body. But if you can be seen and then safe, you can drop in deeper into your body. You can drop in deeper into your self-expression, deeper into your expansion, deeper, and open up more. And the more you're able to do this, the less of a threat other people become. Like the less of a threat that person who previously felt really unsafe, they're not a threat anymore. You recognize them, that they're not safe, but you don't give them any of yourself. You have a boundary with them and them alone, rather than having boundaries that keep everybody out. You learn discernment through this process. And I think that's really, vital to a woman's vitality and to our aliveness. And again, to becoming this expression of the hot girl archetype. And from a neurobiology point of view, safety in the body requires co-regulation and mirroring. So without exposure to diverse bodies, diverse brain types, diverse ways of expression, women lose the ability to mirror themselves back as worthy. Again, like if we're only seeing one version of what is valid, and you don't fit that version, it's going to be really, really hard to drop into yourself, to find your voice, to find your expression when everything seems to point towards this one version that I'm not that and I can't be that, so I don't know what to do, right? So this is where we need to actually expand our window, expand what we see as being valid, worthy, beautiful, intelligent, attractive, sexy, all of those things. Expand your window, expand your view. Start challenging your negative thoughts. When you look at other people's bodies and you have a negative thought, where is that coming from? Why is that there? Do I actually believe this? And you go through this process, and eventually what it does is it really opens you up, and it creates safety in your body, safety in yourself. And this is going to improve your vagal tone, making your digestion better, your libido better. It's going to improve your ability to rest and be at ease, and it's going to improve your tolerance to stress because you're not in this chronic state of surveying yourself and comparing yourself and criticizing yourself because you're not living up to some strange expectation, some strange aesthetic of what it is to be insert blank here, and you can see this, like, are you body checking a lot? Are you always looking in the mirror and seeing what your body looks like, seeing what you look like? Are you really concerned about sharing photos? Does a photo of you trigger you? I understand this. I used to be like this. If somebody took a photo of me, I was like, don't you dare put that on the internet. Just burn it. Like, burn that photo. It's like on someone's phone. I'm like, burn your whole phone, throw it away. Like, oh my god, I'm terrible, everything's terrible, I look horrible. And the saddest part is that I look back on some of these photos, because thank god they didn't burn them, and I look back and I'm like, you know what, I actually was great. I was great, everything was great. I don't know what I was seeing when I was in that moment, but it's like, this is what happens when you are dealing with bad body image, body dysmorphia. You see yourself through a distorted perspective. And that's why it's so important to expose yourself to variety, because it's only through variety do you start normalizing things and start being like, oh, this is normal, that is normal. I'm actually pretty normal, and that's pretty cool, because that means now I'm free to realize that I am not some strange exception, and I actually do have my own value and self-worth, and now I can start exploring that for myself and what that looks like for me, rather than trying to meet society's expectation of what that should look like. And again, with safety requiring this co-regulation and ability to mirror others from a healthy point of view, that means, again, we need to be exposed to things that are improving our health. Like, if you're always mirroring something that is a negative behavior, it's not going to lead to positive change because you don't have an example of positive behavior. And you can see this a lot in relationships. Like, if you never grew up with a mirror of a really healthy, grounded, expansive relationship between your parents, then it can be hard to enter into romantic relationships later in life and understand like how to do them in a way that's going to be healthy and supportive. Or if your first relationships were really traumatic or really, toxic relationships, it can be really hard to learn the tools to enter into healthy relationships. And what ironically ends up happening is that when you do enter a healthy relationship, you want to sabotage it because it doesn't feel safe, even though it is safe. But you're so used to living in the chaos that when you're outside of the chaos, it doesn't feel safe because your system has regulated itself to being in a chaotic state. So we need to find examples. We need to find expansion. We need to broaden our horizons and figure out different ways of approaching the problem that are going to provide healthy and stable examples. And if it feels uncomfortable, if it doesn't feel right in the beginning, but there's some little tiny voice inside of you that's like, I think this is the right thing though, and it's coming from a place of like deep self-assurance, deep, just like it's intuitive and you can't really explain it, that's a little voice that maybe you want to follow. It's not the voice saying, hey, we're not good enough, we shouldn't do this, oh, like fear, fear, fear. It's like this other voice. It's a lighter voice. It's like, I think this is right, and it's quiet maybe because you're not used to listening to it. But that's the voice that you're going to want to start following. Because as we kind of move through this idea of wellness culture being rebranded, like a rebrand of diet culture, one other thing that I see a lot is that it's not teaching you how to listen to your own voice. It's just giving you checklists, to-do lists, more things to track, more things to be aware of, more habits you got to do. Like sometimes I see these like hot girl checklists and I read them and I'm like, I feel stressed out just reading this. Like if I felt like I had to achieve this checklist every single day, I would be so stressed out, and I honestly don't have time to track that. And I don't know many people who do. Most of the people I work with don't have a lot of free time. They have 40, 50-hour weeks, or they're working full time and taking care of young children. Like, they don't have time. So if you've been seeing these checklists and you're like, oh God, I'm falling behind because I'm trying to follow this checklist, your body doesn't need a checklist. You need to learn how to tune in to your own inner voice. And you might be wondering, like, why do I still feel like I'm not doing it right even though I'm doing all the right things? I'm eating organic, I'm taking the supplements, I'm going for walks. Maybe this isn't what is aligned with you right now. And what I work with my clients is learning how to drop into their body, learning how to listen to their body, listen to their inner voice, so you can show up and start building your own routines and your own habits that are really actually aligned and high impact for you personally. Because even if you follow all the checklists, like what happens after? What happens when you quote unquote arrived? You're living the aesthetic, but you still feel like garbage. That's not helping you anymore, is it? Because again, this advice is not built on learning how to listen to yourself. It's just telling you how to follow. Follow this, follow that, do this, chase that, and then somewhere you will have arrived. And then you find that you've arrived at the destination. Maybe it was like a weight loss thing and you've lost the weight, but you still feel like trash. And you're still fighting yourself every single day. You're fighting yourself every step of the way. You're fighting your body. You're constantly thinking about food. That is not the way we want to live. That doesn't feel vital. That doesn't feel like vitality. And it definitely does not feel like hot girl energy because you're constantly at war with yourself inside your body. And that's going to reflect outwards. Ultimately, wellness should be liberating for us. It should free us from the shackles that have been binding us. It should not be shrinking us. It should not be pushing us into boxes. It should be breaking us free so we are expansive, so we are rooted, so we have a felt sense of safety. We're in a somatic state of wellness that's seasonal and cyclical, and we can flow within that. So if your routines are causing more shame than safety, more pressure than peace, it's okay to pause and ask, is this mine? The truth is that feeling good in your body starts from the inside out. It's not from checking boxes or chasing aesthetics. It's learning how to listen to that internal voice. The more we soften our grip on perfection and reconnect with our actual needs, like rest, nourishment, connection, movement, playfulness, that inner child who wants to play and wants to be seen and wants to go out into the world and explore. The more we connect with that, the more your nervous system is going to be able to trust you again. You don't need to perform wellness to be worthy of feeling well. You just need to come home to your own rhythm in your own time and learn how to listen to that inner voice. So we're going to wrap up here with this episode. I hope this was assuring for you. I hope this opened up some new perspectives for you. But we're going to wrap up with some tips for reclaiming your wellness from diet culture.
Now, I'm going to ask you a quick favor. If you love this episode, I'd appreciate it if you took a moment to leave a review, give me some stars, or share it with a friend who needs to hear this. If you have a topic that you'd love me to talk about, contact me at shay@vitaessentia.com. And if you're ready to start rewilding your gut and improving your well-being, don't forget to download my gut guide. You can find it under the free resources section of my website. And all the details are in the show notes.
So let's swap out that checklist mindset for a body-led approach. Ask daily, what do I need today to feel supported? How does this feel for me? Where do I feel it in my body? How is this interaction making me feel in my body? What is my body telling me after I do things, after you eat, after you have a conversation, when you get up and go to work? Like, what is happening inside your body? What does it feel like? And then from there, you can start building in, like, what do I need to support this? Then we want to curate our feed, our social media, to reflect diverse bodies, diverse expressions of health, and unfollow things that don't feel safe, unfollow things that make you feel anxious or small or make you feel like you're not doing enough. Like, you don't need that. We don't need that much information all the time. It's not helping you, it's holding you back. Then practice eating without distraction so you can retrain that interoception, the internal sense of hunger and fullness and being satisfied. Learn how to listen to your body. Challenge language like clean, bloating, looking pregnant, skinny girl mindset. All of that is beneath that discomfort. Is it physical? Is it conditioned? What's going on there? And then let rest and slowness and play count as wellness. Your nervous system thrives on ease and joy. And I was just saying in my group container, like, it doesn't need to be hard. We often feel like we need to grind or push through the pain. No pain, no gain. But like, that's not it. Because where does that get you? It gets you burnt out. Trust me, after 5 or 10 years of pushing through the pain, 15 years pushing through the pain, 20 years pushing through the pain, you will burn out, and it will be bad. The higher your stress, the more long-term and more chronic it is, the bigger the crash that you're going to have. And it's not going to be fun. I assure you of that. As somebody who has burnt out, I burnt out when I was 29, and that crash was massive. It was massive. So one of the things you can do to support yourself from a nutrition point of view, so your mental health and your nervous system has some support, we're going to talk about a couple of foods that you're going to incorporate into your diet. Things like grass-fed beef, grass-fed liver, egg yolks, especially duck egg yolks, because they have so much more yolk and it's so much more potent than a chicken egg, but either one will do, because these are going to provide you lots of rich B vitamins, iron, and choline to support your neurotransmitter function and your energy. Then we can look at the Mediterranean favorites of sardines, salmon, and anchovies. So omega-3s. We need our omega-3s to reduce inflammation and support mood regulation. Omega-3 is so essential to brain health, especially if you've been in a chronically depleted state or chronically burnt out. We want to avoid too much PUFA, too much seed oil. So try and get your omega-3s from fish, like sardines, salmon, and anchovies. Then raw dairy, butter, ghee, those saturated fats and fat-soluble vitamins are going to help stabilize your hormones and your brain health and make sure you have enough of the precursors to build up the building blocks that create your hormones and your neurotransmitters. And then raw honey and fruit. Our bodies love glucose. Our bodies run on glucose. They need it. Our bodies need it for the brain and supporting a calm and regulated state. Because especially if you've been dealing with chronic stress, I can almost guarantee that your body does not have enough resources. So let's build up our resources first. The last thing we're going to add in is lots of nice sea salt, bone broth, and mineral-rich foods. You need your minerals like magnesium, potassium, and sodium to help buffer stress and stabilize the mood. I talk a lot about minerals in the water episode of the podcast. I believe that is episode 4. I'll link it in the show notes if you want to check it out. But yeah, this has already been a full episode, so thank you for listening along. If you have any questions, give me a shout. My Instagram handle is shay.vita, Vyta, and my inbox is always open. So let me know what you thought about this episode. Let me know if there is something more you would like me to expand on. But basically, this is just my thoughts. And I hope you enjoyed them. And that's it for now, so we'll talk to you soon.